Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Welcome to the Art of Badassery. I'm Mahara Wayman, and today I am beyond excited to introduce a truly remarkable guest whose journey from the vibrant streets of India to the eclectic landscape of Dubai and settling in the heart of Houston, Texas, is nothing short of inspiring. She's not just a survivor, she's a thriver, turning the pages of her life story from a painful arranged marriage to a triumphant tale of self-discovery. Originally hailing from India, our guest, Soni Pelty, spent her formative years in Dubai before embarking on a new chapter in the United States when she was 19. For the past 32 years, Houston, Texas has been the backdrop of her journey. From childhood dreams of playing a teacher to a successful IT career in the oil and gas industry, her life took a turn when she left her challenging 22-year marriage. She found the strength to break free and redefine her identity. Now, at the heart of this transformative decision was her then 15-year-old son, who catalyzed her courageous step forward to independence. Navigating the murky waters of divorce, Soni realized that external influences had shaped her identity for too long. Determined to reclaim it, she embarked on a profound healing journey, becoming a love and relationship coach. Her narrative embodies the true essence of being a badass, and that's why she's here today with us. Join us as we chat about her experiences, the challenges that she overcame, and of course, the wisdom that she gained along the way. Soni, welcome to the show. I couldn't be happier to have this conversation.
Thank you, Mahara, for having me on your show. I am so thrilled to be here with you.
Oh, I love that. I love that excitement. So there's so many things that caught my attention when I read your bio. And I'm curious though, from a young age you traveled.
Mm-hmm.
When you left India for Dubai, do you recall there being any great aha or change in how you saw yourself?
Honestly, I feel like when I look back at my life, I have very little remembrance of that time in my life, especially of my life in India, the first 10 years of my life. I just remember bits and pieces of my life, but nothing more than that.
Okay. So
And
when you moved to Dubai, do you have more memories of your time in Dubai as a little girl?
I do have more memories of my time in Dubai than I did of my time in India. The only thing I really remember was going to Dubai was so different. The Dubai that we experience today is not what it used to be in the 80s. And I got there in the winter of 1981. And the summer of 1982 was my first summer in Dubai. And because a lot of people are immigrants there from other countries, it was a dead place. And all I remember was feeling lonely and just wanting to run away.
Okay, so moving to Dubai was a bit dark, not the happening place. There wasn't a lot going on at that time. You were there for some formative years, though. What do you recall as being the really great component of living in Dubai?
Just the different kind of people I met from all over the world. I feel it added richness to my life. So that was the first time I experienced different cultures. And that was something that really lit me up. And some of my best friends were from countries that I would have never imagined living in India.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. So take us forward now. You are 19. What did the whole family move to the US, or was this part of your arranged marriage?
Yes, that was part of my arranged marriage. And as I was sharing with you earlier about the feeling of loneliness when I first got to Dubai, because I did not know anybody, it was very quiet. There was no honking on the streets. It was just like pin drop silence. I'm like, oh my God, where have I come? So no matter the life that I lived in Dubai, got the best education, met amazing people. At the core of my being, like the life that I lived there, the 10 years of my life that I lived there was always this longing of running away,
Mm.
leaving Dubai and going someplace, because it never felt home. And the reason I share that is because at 19, when I moved to Houston, that was because of me getting married. My arranged marriage brought me here. And the reason I didn't resist at that time was this, oh, I'm getting to come to USA.
Mm.
My dad was very conservative. I lived a very sheltered and protected life. After I graduated from high school, there were no colleges in Dubai at that time. I graduated high school in 1989. And I wanted to go to London or come to USA to study, to go to college. And my dad was very uncomfortable with that. He didn't want me to go to a foreign country or to any country, like even to India, to a place where I didn't have family or didn't live with relatives.
So you saw your arranged marriage as a way out,
Yes.
and perhaps a way to something beautiful.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I see from the notes that you sent me that all was not, sugar and roses in your arranged marriage.
Yes.
Can you take us through some of the ahas of that experience that led you to say enough is enough? Wait a second. This is not acceptable.
Yeah. So the first 2 weeks after I came to Houston was when I realized that my then husband had a very short temper and he didn't have the best relationship with his parents, specifically his dad, especially his dad. And that was the first moment of shock because I never really spent time with him. We never really dated. Our families knew each other. His mom and my mom grew up in the same neighborhood in India. And him and I never got to spend time together, even though we saw each other. Within 10 days, we got engaged. And then he went to Houston and I went to Dubai. And there was a period of 6 months between us getting married. But that was all over phone. There was no texting back then either.
Oh, and I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying. We're of the same age, and I can't wrap my head around that. My children are 20 and 25, and even the 25-year-old, she's still my baby. Like I can't, I just can't. And I know it's a cultural thing. You grew up with it, and half the world, or a good percentage of the world, that's normal for them. But when you take an arranged marriage into a culture that it is not normal, like the United States,
Right.
I'm curious when you not only realized within the relationship, wow, this guy's got a temper. I'm not sure we're compatible. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. To, wow, not only is this not so great, but it's not like everything else.
Yes.
How long for you to have had that realization that arranged marriages were not the way that Americans perhaps?
Well, I knew that that's not the way in America. I knew it was very cultural, yet I didn't expect the family who was living in America and who has lived most of their life outside of India. My ex-husband born in India.
Hmm.
He's never lived his life in India. He was from Ghana, West Africa. That's where he was born. He's Indian origin, but he was born in West Africa. So that was more of a shock to me, that a family that has lived most of their life in India, and he who has never lived in India, they were so conservative and so bound to the traditional way of being, which is shifting in India now as well.
Interesting. Okay, so you're a young, newly married woman. You had dreams of being a teacher. You are now living in the States. I'm assuming, well, I don't know. Did you go to university?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, so that was one of the criterias of my parents saying, okay, she's 19. We are happy for her to be married to your son, yet we want her to have an education and for her to study. So that was one of the conditions, if you may say so.
Well, that's a great condition. I mean, you wanted it.
Oh, yes. That too was challenged by his dad because he was not there when we first met and he was not aware of it.
Okay.
So when I got to Houston and I applied to University of Houston for my undergraduate program, he was like, you don't need to study. I'm like, yes, I do. So that was a point of contention as well.
Well, I'm giggling. For those of you that aren't watching the video, I'm giggling because I'm like, okay, I just got a view of her badassery, and her face kind of lit up, and the energy level went up, which is fun to see. But I'm curious, when you began to assert yourself and step forward into your happiness and into your life, how did your husband at the time, and perhaps even your family, react to that?
At that time, my husband, he was very supportive. He did want me to go to school. Well, for all of our married years, I was the primary breadwinner per se. He had his own business. He was part of the family business. So the family had a lot of money. Yet the way they handled money was from a place of lack, even though they had more than enough. And my job was looked upon as, oh, it'll be for health insurance, it will be for X, Y, and Z, so it was because they had a business, his income was more like, oh, let's just only draw so much so you don't go over the tax bracket, which is, we were already in a higher tax bracket because of my the money that I was bringing in with my job. So I never got this luxury of like just being, just enjoying. So he was very supportive. To go back to your question, how did my family take it, or how did he take it? He was very supportive.
Okay. Now, at some point you got pregnant, you have your son?
Yes. And that was the most amazing and most beautiful thing. I did finish my bachelor's in business administration. And so after 5 years of us being married, we had our son. And that was the most beautiful thing. I just want to kind of take you back to the whole like piece where I realized it was not just his temper. He was addicted to porn as well, pornography. And that was a huge shock to me. Like right now, also, when I said those words, I had chills in my body, because for a 19-year-old girl to wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and not find her husband in bed. And when I walked out, he's sitting in front of the TV watching porn.
What did he say about it?
He was just like fumbling, like he's been caught doing something that he shouldn't have been. But what was going on for me in this moment was like, am I not enough? Do I not matter? And why does he need all of this when he has me?
Of course. It brings up such, and I'm glad, I want to say thank you. That wasn't, I knew about that. I didn't touch on it because I wanted to leave it to you to bring up. Pornography is, well, I don't know enough about it other than I have a visceral reaction, which is, ugh,
Yes.
nobody wants to be a porn star. I don't think any woman wants to be a porn star. I can't speak for men. I don't think any woman wants that. And I see it as a challenge. Like really, it can be something very negative and be indicative of a much deeper problem. Did he get help for this, or was it considered a problem, or was it just something guys do?
No, this is how men are, was what was told to me. This is how men are. And now I can say, no, that's not how men are.
Yeah.
That's not how all men are.
So was the pornography a running challenge, a continuous challenge throughout your relationship?
Yes, throughout our relationship. There were stacks and stacks of Playboy magazines, videotapes. I'm aging myself.
I'm older than you, Soni, just so you know. Okay, so you found yourself in a marriage, an arranged marriage that while it had some, I don't want to say benefits, but while there were some good things that came out of it, obviously you got to move to the States, you got an education, you've got this beautiful son, you recognized that your husband was not someone that perhaps you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
That's right. Yes.
How far into the marriage before you came to that realization? Because you were married for 22 years.
Yes. So 15 years into the marriage, I felt like I was done. And by then we had our daughter as well. I did pick up the phone to call an attorney at that point. And just after the first conversation, I just backed off.
Why?
I didn't have the courage. I did not know what my life would look like. I didn't know if my friends would want to be with me, be around me. My kids, the cultural aspect of the Indian culture, my family, just so many things. I feel, like I mentioned to you, my identity was defined by people around me. I thought I loved myself, but where I sit today, I know I didn't love myself. I had low self-worth, because there's no way I'm going to tolerate what I tolerated back then. I will not tolerate that today.
I think it's so interesting, and I appreciate that you bring this up. I think women especially, we can have a glimpse of our unhappiness, but we can convince ourselves it's okay because it's at least I have this, at least I have that, at least I have a home, at least I have friends.
Yes.
And the fear of being without often overweighs the fear of staying put.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, just to hold that thought there. I'm curious what the time frame was from when you recognized I don't have the courage to I'm ready. I've got the courage. How long?
7 years.
7 years. Okay.
Years.
I just want to take a deep breath, and I want to say, wow, those 7 years must have been tough, but I'm proud of you for getting to that point.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about those 7 years.
So the reason it probably took me that long was the uncertainty of the unknown. Even though my situation was not good, I was in a toxic marriage. There was emotional abuse. There was some physical abuse by that point. I knew how to handle that. That was my normal. I was scared of not knowing what is there out there for me once I leave this marriage. I don't know if I had the tools to handle my life. I did not know anything. So even though I was sick of being in that marriage, I was hurting so badly. My body was ailing. I had several diseases that had taken over my body. I knew how to deal with it, even though it was not good.
Yeah. Well, it's so important that you say that, because we find a way. Like, we are
Yes.
survivors, and we make do. Like, I'll deal with this another day. I can handle this. I know this. I know this behavior. I know what to do to navigate this uncomfortable situation. So that went on for 7 years. But what, if I may ask, was the moment when you went, that's it? So we're going to take a short break right now, but I'll be back with my guest within 60 seconds. Ladies, unlock your inner badass and transform your life with my monthly subscription workshop. For just $47 a month, you'll have exclusive access to work closely with me, Mahara Wayman, as we dive deep into all things badass, from personal development to conquering your goals. Imagine waking up every day with confidence, purpose, and a smile that radiates your newfound strength. Take advantage of this badass opportunity and join us today at www.mindfulnesswithmahara.com and start your journey toward a happier, more confident you. Smile when no one is looking. You've earned it.
One of the times when my son was in middle school, and he started saying, I think I'm just going to go to the library and study. I don't know when you and dad are going to start fighting again, and I just can't focus. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to the library and study there. That was the very first thing that happened. Then after one of our fights, I didn't see him, but I think he was standing outside the living room and just hearing us argue and fight. And after it was all said and done, and my ex-husband walked out, he came up to me, and I was sitting at the kitchen table. I remember it so clearly. And he sat down next to me, and he told me, Mom, why do you want to stay with him if he doesn't respect you and doesn't treat you well? Why are you doing this to yourself? And that moment, that 15-year-old boy, all of a sudden was this, oh my God, grown-up man. And this thing that I carried with me, this belief that I will be harming my kids, or I'm staying in this marriage for the sake of my kids, that wasn't true. I could no longer use that to justify me staying in the marriage, because I could see that it's hurting them. And another incident was, we were in the car, and our daughter was sitting in the back seat, and he said something to me, to which I was just getting ready to respond. And right away, my daughter jumped in, Mom, please don't say anything. You guys are going to get into a fight again. And that was the moment I realized that I'm sending a wrong message to both my kids. I'm telling my son, it's okay for a man to treat his wife however he wants. She's always going to be there with him. And I'm telling my daughter that there is no way out for a woman. She has to be okay with however it is that she's treated. And that's not how I wanted my kids to live their life. That's not how I wanted them to think relationships. This is normal in relationships. And that's what led me to say enough is enough. I want out now.
Wow. I'm I have the shivers because I truly believe that our children, they are our angels. And when we allow ourselves to listen, especially when they're little, they say that the damnedest things, right? But they
Yes.
are so intuitive. And I'm blown away by the story. And I'm so glad that you listened to them. I'm so glad that that was the catalyst to for you to sort of step into your greatness, because it does take courage. And not everybody is in, thankfully, a difficult marriage, but
Mhm.
many of us have challenges in our life, whether it's with our relationships or with our work or with our self-loathing.
Mhm.
Many of us pretend. And I love your story because you're telling us that, you know what, I stopped pretending that it was okay.
Yes.
So you left your marriage, and did you leave your career at the same time? Because I want to move into your new career in a bit.
Yes, yes. No, I didn't move into my new career at that time. I was still working for the oil and gas company, and the first couple of years were pretty crazy after I got divorced. It was not a bed of roses. I was 42 when we got divorced, and for the first time ever in my 40s, I stepped into the dating world not knowing how to handle that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 42, I've never dated, and throw in the mix online dating, all these apps, and holy shit, what am I doing here?
So I'm curious, and I'm glad that we're laughing because the first part of the conversation felt a little heavy. But so you jump into the online dating. Were you like a kid in a candy store, or were you like
Yes, I was.
you were?
I'm like, yes. I'm like, wow, what is all of this? And yet, because I wasn't modeled what good relationships look like, I was all over the place. I went from one relationship to the next to the next. And after 2.5 years or so of doing that, I'm like, this is not what I want for myself. I know I'm meant to be in a deep, loving relationship, and I know I want to be married again. And so I literally sat down and logged onto Google, and I looked up relationship coaches for myself.
Oh, you good for you, girl. I love it.
I'm like, I am done with randomly trying different things, reading a little bit of blogs here, reading a book there. It's not getting me anywhere because honestly, I needed to do some healing. I needed to heal the trauma that I experienced from so many years. And it just didn't start from when I got married. Leading that constricted, restricted life that women or girls in India is normal for them. I had to undo so much. So I'm really happy that I embarked on my journey of healing, of growth, of self-love.
It
And
is a journey, isn't it? I mean, it's not.
it's a journey, a never-ending journey.
Yeah. I appreciate that you're being honest about it. And when I talk to my clients, sometimes they have wavered back and forth for months and or years before getting help.
Yeah.
But especially today, there are so many coaches,
Mhm.
very well trained therapists, counselors, coaches. There's help
Yes.
if you're needing it. And back then, for you to have reached out for that is brilliant. I am curious, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. How much of your healing included forgiveness?
A lot of it. Forgiveness came much later for me in the healing journey, though.
Okay.
I had a lot of anger to process
Mhm.
before I could even forgive.
Yeah, I bring it up because it's a very strong component. It was in mine. And I know it is in my clients. And some people aren't ready to let go of that anger.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me that you said it didn't come right away.
Right,
A
right.
lot of anger.
Yeah, and I had to forgive myself first.
Oh, that's part of I think that's part of the heart. That's maybe even the hardest because
Yes.
I don't know about you, but for me, I spent, I had a lifetime of putting myself down
Hmm.
for no real reason. I mean, I'm not going to go into my old childhood trauma, whatever. It wasn't even trauma, it was just stuff. But I got used to behaving in a certain way that was very derogatory to myself.
Hmm.
And it took years for me to realize it. I had best friends try to point it out to me as I was growing up. And I would just poo poo it away, like, oh, whatever. I'm just being funny. Yeah, no big deal. And they're like, and I know I'm still best friends with one of these girls. And she's like, I watched you, Mahara. I watched you. And I'm just so glad that you're not there anymore because it
Hmm.
was painful for my friends to listen to some of the stuff I was saying about me. So I think self forgiveness is a huge component of being a badass. Just folks, forgive yourself. It's part of being a badass. I'm telling you that right now. I love that you're laughing about this. So you got a relationship coach,
Yes,
a lot of
and
work.
I, yeah, did a lot of work on me and learned the dynamics of relationships, of real relationships, healthy romantic relationships. And it wasn't easy breaking those old patterns of showing up in relationships, no boundaries, people pleasing, um, over giving. I checked all those boxes, you know, and the way you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in every area of your life. And I was showing up that way even in my friendships. So not only did I heal my relationship, like while I was dating, just romantic relationship and attracting an amazing man several years into my healing, but my other relationships around me started to shift and change too. I was not overgiving in my friendships.
Hear that a lot with my guests. And I think you're right. How we behave in one area of our life is how we behave in all areas of our life. It's just whether we're willing to recognize it. And I do believe that when everybody that's on a journey of self-discovery, the happier we are, the happier
Mhm.
our people are, because
Yes,
they feel it, they react to our energy, and they learn from us. Our children, excuse me, our children learn from us and how
totally.
they see us interact. So I'm curious. You've got two children, a boy and a girl.
Yes.
They supported your decision to leave the marriage. They could see how unhappy you were.
Mhm.
And how were they watching you as you grew into yourself? Were they like, "Yeah, go for it, mom," or was it a little bit strange for them, and a little bit of were they a little afraid of the new mom? Not afraid of. I didn't mean to say
It
afraid
was
of, but just recognizing that that you're growing and changing.
right, right, right. It's been a beautiful journey, Mahara, and just to watch my son. So when at the time when I started my healing journey, my son was already out of the house. He was at college.
Okay.
But my daughter was at home with me, and she got to witness the transformation in me. And I have a beautiful story to share with you about that. Um, we were sitting in our kitchen, on the kitchen counter, on the stool. I was sitting there, and I had this picture of the three of us, myself and my two kids, on the counter. And my daughter walked down the stairs, and she came to me, and she looked at me, and she said, "You know, mom, that mom that is there in this picture and the mom who is sitting in front of me are two different people. You're so much stronger now. You don't spiral down every time dad says he's going to stop paying for this, he's going to take this away, or he creates turmoil in your life. You don't spiral down as much as you used to." In that moment, I felt that every dollar that I'd invested in my growth was realized, was worth it.
It's priceless.
It's priceless.
Yeah, it's priceless.
That will always stay with me. Now, too, when she talks to her therapist, she's like, I look up to my mom. And it just melts my heart that I could be this person for my kids, show them a different way of life that they wouldn't have gotten to experience had I not taken the step of leaving the marriage.
Yeah. So courageous, so much strength. And I just want to applaud you for that, because it's not easy. As you said earlier, there's fear of the unknown. You were
Yes.
raised in a society or in a family that showed you what it could be like. So really, it was very much, I can see it being really scary. So
Yeah.
I want to know how you went from being in the oil and gas industry to being a love and relationship coach, because they're actually quite far apart. Talk to
Yes,
us
aren't
about that.
they?
They are, but I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, so it was my life's transformation story. What I learned, how it changed my life. I was called to show up and be of service to other women because, hey, I don't want to keep this to myself. There's so many women who just live in mediocrity that this is the best it gets. There is nothing better out there. And when I discovered that there's so much out there, once we have the courage to step out of that mediocrity that we are living in, how could I keep that secret to myself? So that got me on my journey to be a love and relationship coach. And here I am.
Okay, I got to ask, because I know our audience is thinking, because you mentioned a beautiful relationship. Are you in a relationship today?
Yes, I am married. And I met my husband online on a dating site. And so I met him 6 years after my divorce. And while I was already on my healing journey, dating several men, I dated like crazy. I went on some 300 some first dates before I met him.
Has energy for 300 first dates.
The Mahara, it was so therapeutic. I know people don't think of dating as therapy, but when you are going out and dating, you come across so many different situations and they trigger you.
Okay.
And then that gives birth to more healing, because we can heal on our own and we can only get so far. But when we are in the real world, in real situations, in real relationships, shit comes up for us. And that helps us heal while we are dating. So that was just like a blessing, I feel, for me.
Oh my God.
So I was ready for him to show up.
I love your attitude. You are such a badass. And I can see from your energy, everything has worked out well for you. And I think you're right. When we open ourselves to the lesson, give ourselves permission to sit with the uncomfortableness of being a human, then we can move past it. It's when we dampen it down, pretend it's not there, ignore it, that builds up and it becomes incredibly toxic.
Right.
Yay for you. You went on 300 first dates. You grew, you learned, you were determined. You met this amazing man. You're now remarried, and you are a love and relationship coach. What's the number one thing that you learned about yourself as a woman in her 40s from this whole experience?
That we can have it all.
I want to break into song. You know that song, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. Okay, sorry guys. I may have to cut that out, but we'll see. So you can have it all. I love it. Can you give us an example?
I meet so many women, especially like successful entrepreneurs, whether they're in corporate, whether they are having their own businesses, just feel like if I'm successful in one area of my life, I cannot be successful in another area. I can't have it all. And if I'm successful in work, I cannot be successful in love. And I say, no, we can have it all. We get to have it all. We are meant to have it all. We are born to have it all.
Oh, I love that.
It's our birthright.
It is. It really is. And I'm so glad you said that. My kids, both my children are girls, and they grew up with me telling them when I put them to bed, you are a child of the universe and you have a right to be here.
Yes.
And despite being brought up with a very forward-thinking mom and very open, they still had challenges because that's life.
Mm-hmm.
But when we can reinforce that understanding in ourselves, life is different. You look at life through a different lens. It's a lens of acceptance. It's a lens of abundance. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lens of love, love for ourselves, love for the opportunity, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So talk to what do you, as a love and relationship coach, do you do one-on-one? Do you have group? What does your coaching look like? Is it in person over online?
Yeah, so I do one-on-one. I do on and off group coaching. Most of it is online. I have a few in-person clients, not too many, but most of it is online. Um, and I do have a podcast of my own as well.
What's your
So
podcast called?
I try to share my wisdom in different ways.
Oh my goodness, we are a lot alike, girlfriend. Just saying.
Yes, we are.
Interesting though, but all joking aside, and I see this a lot with my peers in coaching, but when we have found happiness and we found the way through,
Mhm.
of us are called to just shout it from the rooftops. And
Yes.
I'm fairly new to business, but I have been navigating what is the best way for me to communicate. And I don't know that I found the best way yet, but there are lots of ways for coaches or anybody has a heart-centered business to share their truth. And the world needs us, right? The world
Yes.
needs us, whether it's
Yes.
on a podcast or, you know, in doing online coaching or in-person coaching or writing a book. The world needs us. So I'm curious though, as we start to wrap this up, what are 2 or 3 things that you do on a regular basis to fortify this amazing growth that you've had? So what do you do on a regular basis to remind yourself or to do some self-care around being a badass?
Spend alone time with myself. I really prioritize that. I'm in a beautiful relationship, and yet I feel that when we are disconnected from ourselves, we look externally to have our bucket filled. So I definitely make it a point to prioritize my time with myself and
Okay,
connect with myself.
I love that. Number one. Okay, what's another thing that you do?
I meditate. That's been a beautiful practice for me for a couple of years now. And that just helps me, keeps me grounded, something that I can always fall back on. And that kind of connects with my spiritual practice as well. I feel like I'm not alone. I'm never alone. So that's number two.
Is there a third one?
Yes, there is. Third
Okay.
one is, I guess, more of taking care of our relationship, me and my husband, regular date nights. So, but for myself, it's those two. And I guess even the date nights is kind of for myself as well. My love languages are um, physical touch and quality time. So that enhances me as well.
Look at your smile. Love it. So I'm just going to do a quick recap here. You were raised in a culture that believes in arranged marriages. You agreed to one with high hopes that this was going to lead you to something better because you knew there was something more for you. Unfortunately, it didn't. But along the way, you learned about yourself and you really discovered your reservoir of courage and stamina and determination. You've raised 2 beautiful children that supported your move to leaving the marriage. And you have found your way into a career where you are sharing the wealth and the knowledge and the joy of putting yourself first and learning how to navigate this thing called relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship or not. That's what humans do, is we have relationships. Some of us suck at them, some of us learn along the way how to be good at them. And I love that you are now doing this so wholeheartedly, with this desire to share what you've learned. I am going to drop all of your information into our show notes, because I want our listeners to connect with you, and I want to tune into your podcast. Is it just yourself, or do you have guests?
I have a lot of solo casts and a few guests. I am in the process of rebranding and recording season 3. And this season, I am inviting more guests in.
Beautiful. I can't.
I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited for us to chat again.
Oh, we're going to chat again. No, we're going to chat again for sure. Thank you so much for joining us on the Art of Badassery today. I think this is, our guest today has really epitomized what it means to dig deep and question and seek answers. And I just want, if there's any of you listening that are struggling in a relationship, whether it's domestic abuse or a narcissist relationship or whatever, please take a breath and know that you're not alone, and reach out for help, because no woman should have that experience, and there is help out there for you. Soni, thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your day. And everyone, I'll see you next week on the Art of Badassery. My name is Mahara, and I have loved chatting with my guest today. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Art of Badassery. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insights to help unleash your inner badass. If you found this podcast helpful, please leave a rating or review on your favorite platform. Your feedback not only helps me improve the show, but it also helps others like yourself discover the podcast. Until next time, keep embracing your authenticity and living life on your terms. Here's to you.